Did you know Suicide Squad's still dead? They found a way.
Bang, 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 bang. What do you mean, Scott Tilford?
They found a way to make Suicide Squad even more dead. We need some sort of legal clarification for can you be buried more than Suicide Squad? I barely even knew that the game's Joker DLC was a thing.
Yeah.
That it happened, but players are furious with the way that the game's Joker DLC is rolled out. He's locked behind grinding out between 10 and 20 repeat campaign missions of a 76-part battle pass, only for the character himself to have repetitive dialogue. The gameplay that isn't very differentiable from everybody else. The boss battles that you're doing are also reused from the main game, and that's after Brainiac himself is a pretty much a reskin of the Flash boss fight.
Yep.
So you're doing that over and over again to try and get a hold of Joker, and then Joker himself barely fits into the game. And also, like, once you finally unlock him, he pretty much plays the same way. Obviously, certain attacks are animated differently, but you're moving around the same way. Fans have noticed that he doesn't even address Harley. They don't have any dialogue between the two of them. Which is a huge thing. The really insulting part, though, is that this grind, you can offset it by just buying Joker outright.
Amazing.
You can just pay, you can use 1,000 Luther coins. Which are either £8 or $10 as a single microtransaction that gets you 1,100, and then you can use 1,000 just to buy Joker if you want. So if that grind does grind you down, you can pay your way out of the mine you've put yourself in. But I think that's a horrible state for a video game to be in, where I don't even feel like there were that many people excited about Joker anyway. But then he's buried behind a very repetitive grind, which mimics the grind of the end game. So the people who are already in there, who are maybe looking forward to new mission types or something like that, they're not going to happen. Apparently there's a mission type, I think it's called Incursion, that's been mentioned for a while, but it's not actually launched with the season pass.
Okay.
So there's mention of a new mission type, but it hasn't happened yet. But like I said, even if you do cough up the money or whatever, you don't get a meaningful version of Joker. One, he's like an Elseworlds Joker, so it's not the one that died, because they wouldn't get Mark Hamill back, and that would be an even bigger insult to everyone who's got to this point. But also he doesn't address Harley, doesn't feel like it's a meaningful part of the game. The cutscene that introduces him is apparently a motion comic, not actually a cutscene, just a more simple thing to put together, not to insult motion comic artists. I love them for the most part. And there's a cutscene towards the end of his stint as well, but what's going on?
I don't know what's
Why
going
are they doing
on,
this
Scott.
to us?
I think, to me, this vindicates my thought that this game might have the worst end game of a live service I've maybe ever seen. Like, I was worried when I finished up my time with it, and spoilers, the game says fight 13 Brainiacs, but you have to wait for the DLC to fight some of those Brainiacs, and that's all you have to look forward to. All you got to look forward to from the promise of the first season are these new characters and the chance to fight a different version of Brainiac again and do the same missions you've already done again. You know, I could have maybe held out some optimism that these releases would add substantial story content that really made the game worth playing, made it feel complete, but it doesn't seem like that's the case at all. And there are a few issues here. One is the promise of that Brainiac boss fight. They've already detailed the first slew of these, and it's just a variation on the fights you've already had. You know, Brainiac taking on the powers of the Flash or Green Lantern or whoever it is, and the fight will be slightly different from the base version of those superheroes, but going off the end of the original game, not that much. And it's like, why do I want to fight Brainiac Green Lantern? Why do I want to fight Brainiac Superman when I've already fought those? Like, do you not have anything else? Any other supervillain I can fight? Please, that isn't just a reskin of the fight that I've already had from a few hours ago. That, to me, is just crazy that is the hook of these, I guess, kind of raid light missions that you're getting. But the second and maybe most pressing issue is exactly what you alluded to. You're getting these characters in, right? You're getting the Joker in.
Yeah.
But the issue, or one of the fundamental issues with Suicide Squad's gameplay, is that all the heroes play the same. They have slight variations, but they are incredibly slight. It usually just amounts to what melee weapon they have and what main guns they can use, or at least are proficient in. So what's the point in getting characters in this world if they're going to play the same? They're glorified skins, right? They're not characters in their own right. It doesn't sound like Joker's got too much story. Again, can't really criticize that because I've not played it. But in terms of the play styles, like, why would I be looking forward to anyone when I was bored of all four characters in the main game anyway?
Well,
Slightly different traversal mechanics, but nothing fundamentally different. It's not like you're adding in I don't know. It's not like you're making Wonder Woman playable or anything, and you're moving away from guns and you're having a melee-based system. Even, I can't believe this game has me defending every time Marvel's Avengers, but even Marvel's Avengers, right, for the most part, brought in characters and gave them unique movesets. All right, some of them were crap and kind of similar to what was already in there, but at least Spider-Man could swing around and he could fire his webs, and yeah, he played similar, but at least it was slightly different.
Yeah.
Here, it's even less than the Avengers again.
I feel like on the story front as well, like I said, he doesn't acknowledge Harley. It doesn't really feel like it's a meaningful part of the squad. I think there is, like I said, there's a cutscene if you finish his missions, but it's very, very little. And that whole idea of it being part of the Arkhamverse is just so out the window now. Like it feels like it's just a marketing term. Like it doesn't surprise me. Or it surprises me even less in retrospect that Rocksteady lost so many key creatives. Like you had the founders of the studio leaving during the creation of Suicide Squad. And I wonder like how much of this longer battle pass stuff and the long form tail monetizable side of it was part of the conversation for the last 10 years or whether it's more of a new thing.
That's my question as well. I got a lot of questions about this game, but I thought when I hit credits on the main game, I was like, this was short. It's not finished. Like it doesn't have a proper satisfying ending. It's built around the end game. So part of me was thinking, right, okay, maybe this is unsatisfying because they've maybe cleaved it in half. Maybe they have substantial story beats to come in the DLC. Maybe they're saving that stuff and kind of giving it to us later so they have a DLC roadmap that gets people invested. But to me, it's the worst of both worlds because it seems like, no, they don't have that. The DLC that's arriving is very slight, but also the main game isn't complete in and of itself. So it's like, I don't know what has happened from the developer and publisher side to result in this product after so many years. And again, try to clarify as much in this video as much as possible. Like Rocksteady is such a talented studio. They've clearly got talented devs even working on Suicide Squad. But who is making the decisions to have this end game and make the core game structured around that repetition and the lack of variety?
I wonder, speaking of Rocksteady, I have nothing but strong positive things to say about Rocksteady. They defined an entire wing of video games in regards to superhero video games. Like Arkham Asylum, one of the most influential video games of all time, whether just its combat system or its overall production or the way that it treats its characters, etc. And then Arkham City, Arkham Knight. I just hope they're okay. I wonder how much from the top down, from the Warner Brothers side down, because you do have Warner Brothers CEO David Zaslav talking about investing in live service, so wanting more of that stuff. How much of that is just forced upon this game now, even though the numbers aren't there? Like even when it debuted, I think it was only like number 13 or something in the UK charts or whatever. It didn't do very well. It was in the digital PlayStation stores trending top 10 like for a couple of days on launch weekend. But I feel like the more people got hands on with it, the more they realized how repetitive it was. And I haven't actually gone through the game's trophy data to see if people have finished it. There's definitely a hardcore fandom here because you see them occasionally on social media. They always see the Reddit threads and things like that. And I just wonder, is that increasingly small pool of people now being monetized for the absolute, like to the nth degree?
Yeah.
Like what happened with the Avengers, because that game went offline. But in its dying throes, the Avengers was charging like £50 per skin, £150 for a skin pack, because you might as well monetize those players. And at some point, you just need to get out.
Yeah.
Like it's going to be a corporation monetizing a group of people for as much as until you tap out.
That's it, right? That's we just talked about this when we were discussing. I can't remember what we were discussing, Scott. It feels like an hour.
We've been
ago.
here for days.
We've been in here for days, but we were discussing microtransactions and Tekken 8 and them exploiting the fan base that they already have. And yeah, that's what I can see happening with Suicide Squad, because like you said, it happened with the Avengers. Suddenly the grind was elongated because Square Enix was saying, people love grinding. We'll just make that arbitrarily longer so we get more retention. Yeah, I know. And then they maybe will buy our Battle Pass and buy the new characters and buy the DLC. I look at Suicide Squad and it reminds me of Anthem, and I expect to see some similar deranged decisions in its sort of dying throes to try to get as much money out of the remaining audience as possible. And that sucks for an IP as big as this and for a studio with such caliber behind it. Like I honestly wonder if all of the full content drops are even going to happen. And if they do, I can't imagine anymore unless something radical happens with them and Rocksteady's allowed to make them these can't miss, experiences. We've seen games turn it around, but based on what I've seen from Joker and based on the core game itself and how Warner Brothers is discussing it, I just don't know if they will be able to put the time and money and effort behind it in the same way that like a No Man's Sky turned things around. To me, it looks like an Avengers, it looks like an Anthem, and I wonder at what point does WB say it's not even worth keeping this going?
Well, that's the thing. I don't like. What's your dream scenario for turning this around? Like because the thing is, I'm going to go into a little bit into data mine stuff here because there are leaks for the game that have done the rounds, talking about resurrecting the characters and doing the boss fights all over again, which kind of makes sense if you're trying to reheat the same stuff over and over again. You already have those, game design. You have those gameplay mechanics in place for those boss fights.
Yeah.
The next seasonal villain is apparently Mr. Freeze. So there's that. But like you said, if the comparison is I don't necessarily compare it to No Man's Sky, but I can see that Cyberpunk and No Man's Sky feel like they're quite similar in terms of how much hate there was. And how sort of mismarketed they were. Suicide Squad was marketed fairly straightforwardly and was what we thought it was.
Yeah.
But that idea of like what could it possibly do to turn heads, you'd have to gut the whole thing.
You'd have to gut the whole thing. They would never do it, and it pains me to say it because I love Harley Quinn, and I love Harley Quinn in this game. I think she's like genuinely really funny, really well presented, really well acted. Like visually, like the detail. All the characters, to be fair, is really, really good. But for me, the answer would be sack off the Suicide Squad. Just sack them off.
Yes.
They don't play it different enough.
Right.
Like they're boring to spend so much time with because all you are doing is leveling up your guns. They could be anyone. They could be custom characters it would barely have an impact on the actual gameplay.
Sure.
Of course, it would radically change the story, but on the actual gameplay, it doesn't matter that you're playing as Captain Boomerang. It doesn't matter that you're playing as King Shark or Harley Quinn or I can't remember, Deadshot, I think it is. Always get him mixed up with Deathstroke.
Fair.
So I always mix that up. I don't even know if they're both DC, right? I'm going to lose my credentials now.
Deathstroke is in the museum in this game.
That's
you can look at a mural of him.
That is right.
Yes.
But yeah, honestly, the way to save it is sack those guys off and make the playable characters actually different. Wonder Woman in the game her scenes are amazing. And every time she's on screen, I was saying, why am I not playing that Wonder Woman game over there when she's fighting Superman around you and you're protecting a convoy, someone in a car, same mission type you've done 20 times. I'm like, but there's a good game happening over there.
See that giant King Shark that can eat people alive? Give him a gun.
Yeah.
Just give him some pistols.
Hey,
don't worry about it.
Give him a gun. That's the answer to everything. And it's like, they would never do it. It's a completely different game. But if they were reviving the Justice League members, make them playable.
Yeah.
I think give us something.
It's worth saying, like, I just, like I said, I just hope Rocksteady are okay. I just hope they have some other irons in the fire, something else other than the majority of the people over at Rocksteady being bolted to this project that I have to imagine most of the people literally there are not enjoying their day to day. I have no idea. Maybe they're loving it, and props to them. But I just want to know what they're doing next. I want to know if they're okay, because the project that was in the works, I forget what year it was cancelled internally, was a multiplayer shooter anyway.
Yeah.
And it always felt like the Suicide Squad wrapping was given to that multiplayer shooter. So in theory, Rocksteady's core identity as being this single player studio would have gone to the side anyway when this other project came together. But I'm just curious, is that way they wanted to take the studio? Like, there was a whole lot of disappointed people around Arkham Knight, which is fair enough. I was one of them. And I'm just curious, like, where do you go from there? You look at the trajectory from Arkham Asylum through Arkham City, Knight, and then this, and it's just like, your next step is the most important.
Yeah.
And I just hope that it's not straight down to faceplant the floor.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I fully agree. I want them to, come back from this in a big way, make something really special. I just hope that the WB executives have the patience and I guess the foresight to understand what talent they actually have on their hands, and not just, I don't even want to say it because it sounds like it, because it could genuinely happen, but start shutting down studios that they don't think are profitable. It sounds like they want to get out of the AAA business entirely, move into free-to-play and mobile games. And I'm like, but you have Rocksteady, you've got NetherRealm, you got, I think it's Monolith Studios, all of these huge development teams that could be making excellent things and have made excellent things in the past. And it just feels like they're getting put through the corporate exec grinder to make as much a monetizable cashola as they possibly can.
There's also, just to round this out, there's the James Gunn side of it, the whole idea that everything is canon, like sharing different voice actors, trying to have these unified fronts for various characters. And you would think that somewhere along the line there's been conversations with Rocksteady, even though, like I said, the heads have now left. Maybe those conversations are why they left, in regards to bringing together what Rocksteady can do, the caliber of that studio, making either a new Batman for the new Batman, or a Superman game or whatever it is, and just hoping it all unifies in the end. I increasingly don't think it can, but yeah, I hope that there's a positive resolution eventually, and whatever plans are in motion for Suicide Squad get seen through, rather than things get cut off, people get fired and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So we'll see.